had a low-mileage 7.3 Godzilla sitting on my bench this week, pulled from a truck that got totaled in a flood, and instead of just parting it out, I tore it down to show you exactly what Ford put inside this engine. I get asked about this motor constantly, guys wondering if it's actually as tough as the marketing says, or if it's in a nickel and dime them once the warranty runs out. So instead of guessing, I pulled the valve covers, dropped the oil pan, and went through every part of this thing by hand. What I found changed a few opinions I walked in with, and it might change a few of yours too. Factory horsepower on this engine sits right around 400, modest next to some of the smaller turbocharged engines putting up bigger numbers on paper these days. I want to address that before we get into the teardown, because it's not a shortcoming, it's a deliberate engineering choice. This engine was built for one job: low RPM, high torque, sustained duty cycle work in a heavy-duty truck, not to chase a horsepower per liter number for a magazine spec sheet. Once you understand that design brief, every choice inside this engine, from the cam profile to the oiling layout, starts to make a lot more sense, and you stop judging against engines built to solve a completely different problem. First look, before any wrenches come out before I picked up a wrench, I looked over the outside of this engine because you can learn a fair amount before anything comes apart. The front cover and water pump setup is different from anything Ford's done before, routed more like a modern Hemi than the old Ford big block family. There's no shared parts, no shared architecture. This is a clean sheet designed front to back. Same story around the back. The bell housing pattern and rear cover are their own thing entirely. This is a genuinely new platform, not a warmed over version of something old. And that matters when you're trying to figure out how well it's going to be supported down the road. Wet weight on this engine, fully dressed and ready to run, comes in right around 580 pounds. For an iron block V8 that displaces 7.3 liters, that's honestly not bad. It's only about 20 pounds heavier than a comparable iron block small displacement V8 from another manufacturer, which tells you Ford did some work to keep this thing from being a total anchor in the nose of the truck. Physically, it's not a giant engine either. It's only a couple inches wider and less than 2 inches longer than engines that displace half as much. That's part of why it fits in the same engine bay as smaller options without a ton of drama. Valve train and timing chain popped the valve covers off first, and this is where things got interesting right away. The rocker arm design in here is strikingly similar to what you'd find in a lot of modern pushrod V8s from other manufacturers, individual pedestal mount rockers, a layout that's been proven for decades across millions of engines. That's actually good news if you're a truck owner, because it means the fundamentals of this valve train aren't experimental. They're a refined version of something that already has a long track record of holding up. Pull the front cover, water pump, and balancer off next to get a look at the timing chain setup. There's a proper oil pressure fed timing chain tensioner along with a secondary guide. And interestingly, the oil pump runs off its own separate chain rather than being driven directly off the crank. It's a slightly more complex setup than some competitors, but from a durability standpoint, a chain-driven oil pump with its own tensioner isn't a red flag for me. It just means there's one more component that could theoretically wear over time, though I haven't seen failures tied to it in the trucks that come through my shop yet. Checking the bottom end first, flipped it over to check the bottom end before pulling the heads. And this is where I noticed something worth mentioning. There's a crossmember style brace that ties in the main caps and runs into the oil pan rail, which adds rigidity to the bottom of the block. That's a smart move on Ford's part, because a stiffer bottom end resists flex under load, and flex under load is exactly what causes premature bearing wear over the life of an engine. For a truck engine that's going to spend its life towing heavy trailers, that extra rigidity is a genuinely good design choice. Getting the rocker arms and push rods out confirmed what I suspected from the valve covers. This really is a proven layout underneath the factory badge. The push rods themselves are a reasonable diameter for a factory part, which tells me Ford wasn't trying to save weight at the expense of durability here. One more small thing worth noting, the cylinder heads use what's called a canted valve layout, where the intake and exhaust valves sit at a slight angle away from each other rather than perfectly in line. It's a minor detail, but it does help with airflow, and it's the kind of design choice that shows this wasn't a rushed engineering job. Pulling the heads, getting the heads off took a little longer than I expected, mostly because whoever owned this truck clearly wasn't keeping up on maintenance the way they should have. There's a decent amount of carbon buildup around the combustion chambers, more than I want to see on an engine with this few miles. That's not a knock on the engine itself. That's a reminder that fuel quality and oil change intervals matter on any engine, and this one's no exception. Underneath the buildup, the head gasket was a pretty standard factory multi-layer steel gasket. Nothing exotic, which is good news for cost if you ever need to replace one down the road. One detail worth pointing out while I had the heads off is how the head fasteners are set up. Rather than the threads starting right at the top of the block, they run almost 3 inches down before engagement begins. That means clamping force is pulled from deeper inside the structure rather than right at the surface, which distributes the load more evenly and helps the head seal better across the whole deck. Most owners will never think about it, but it's the kind of detail that shows real thought went into how this engine holds itself together under load. The cylinder heads themselves are a mixed bag, and I want to be straight with you instead of just telling you what you want to hear. The intake port shape is actually solid, better than I expected. The exhaust side is noticeably more restrictive, a common trade-off in factory truck engines, where towing torque matters more than top-end breathing. For a truck that's never seeing a track day, this is a non-issue. If you're chasing serious power numbers, it's worth knowing, but for owners just towing a camper or a work trailer, this detail will never once affect your life. Here's a legitimate engineering quirk worth flagging honestly. Between each cylinder bore, there's a small coolant passage cut directly into the deck surface, there to help manage heat, but it means slightly less contact area for the head gasket to seal against in that spot. Under normal driving and towing conditions, I haven't seen this cause problems, and Ford clearly engineered around it. Where it becomes a real consideration is if somebody adds a lot of boost down the road, since higher cylinder pressure is exactly the kind of stress that finds weak points like this. For a stock or mildly modified truck doing normal truck things, I wouldn't lose sleep over it. Lifters, camshaft, and crank pulling the lifters out was one of the more reassuring parts of this whole teardown. These are a well-proven lifter diameter that's used across a huge range of engines from multiple manufacturers, which is great news for parts availability and cost down the line. When a component follows an industry standard size, instead of being some proprietary one-off part, it usually means replacement parts stay affordable and available for a long time, instead of you being stuck waiting on a dealer-only part with a 6-week backorder. One of the lifters on this engine had actually started chewing into its camshaft lobe, likely part of why this ended up as a core engine instead of staying in service. This is worth talking about because it's a genuine, verifiable failure mode, not a rumor. Lifter and cam lobe, where like this is almost always tied to oil-related issues, an extended interval, a filter that wasn't up to the job, or oil that broke down before it should have. It's not evidence of a design flaw, it's evidence of what happens when maintenance gets skipped. If you own one of these trucks, it's your best argument for sticking to factory oil change intervals. The crankshaft was the piece I was most curious about, since it ultimately determines how much abuse this engine can take. What I found is a factory crankshaft doing nothing unusual, a solid steel piece with rod journals on the smaller side, compared to some other big displacement V8s. That might sound like a knock, but factory examples of this engine have shown they can handle serious torque and towing loads without issue, which tells me the metallurgy and heat treatment Ford use here is doing a lot of the work, even without oversized journals. Piston and rod assembly was about what you'd expect out of a factory truck engine built for towing rather than high RPM performance. Nothing lightweight or exotic here. These are built for durability under sustained load rather than for spinning to 8,000 RPM, which is exactly what you want in something that's going to spend its life pulling a trailer up a grade at moderate RPM for hours at a time. Camshaft on this engine is genuinely impressive for a factory part, noticeably larger than what you typically see in a stock truck application. That translates to strong low-end torque and good cylinder filling across the RPM range this engine actually operates in during real-world towing, which lines up with everything I've felt driving these trucks with a trailer behind them. The oiling system last thing I wanted to look at was the oiling system, and this is genuinely one of the more unique things about this engine. Instead of the oil pump running directly off the crank or camshaft, It's driven by its own jack shaft, a small separate drive shaft dedicated to spinning the pump. Oil feeds the lifter galleys first, moves up to the piston oil squirters, then crosses over to the mains and camshaft afterward. That means this isn't a priority main system, where the crankshaft main bearings get first access to oil pressure the instant the engine starts. I'll be honest, that's not my favorite way to lay out an oiling system. Priority main designs tend to protect the most critical bearings a little better during cold starts. That said, I haven't seen this show up as a real-world reliability issue in the trucks I service. So take it as an engineering observation worth knowing rather than a reason to avoid this engine. Busting that it's just a bigger LS. Myth now, let's address a myth I hear all the time, that this engine is basically just a bigger version of another manufacturer's small block. I want to bust that properly instead of repeating it, because it sounds catchy. There are real similarities. The rocker design and lifter diameter clearly draw from proven, well-established architecture used successfully for decades. But the bore spacing on this engine is unique to Ford. The jackshaft-driven oil pump isn't something you'll find on the engine people compare it to, and there are currently no aftermarket blocks or cylinder heads available for it, which tells you this is its own platform, not a clone wearing a different valve cover. Some shared engineering philosophy, sure. A copy and paste job, not even close. The reliability verdict, so let's actually answer the question I get asked the most, which is whether this engine is worth trusting for the long haul. Based on what I've seen coming through my shop and confirmed by tearing this one all the way down on my own bench, I'd put the reliability rating on this engine at a solid 8.5 out of 10. It loses a little ground for that non-priority main oiling layout and for cylinder heads that could use some refinement on the exhaust side, but everything else about this platform points to an engine built by people who are thinking about longevity, not just a spec sheet number. Maintenance cost on this engine runs reasonable for something this size. Factory oil capacity is on the higher end, so budget somewhere around $100 to $150 for a proper oil change, depending on where you get it done. But beyond that, you're mostly looking at normal wear items, spark plugs on a fairly long interval, a serpentine belt eventually, and coil packs down the road. Nothing about the maintenance schedule on this engine should surprise or bankrupt you. As far as common failures go, this teardown itself gave you a real one. Lifter and cam lobe were tied directly to oil maintenance falling behind. Beyond that, I haven't personally seen major structural failures on these engines yet, which makes sense given how relatively new this platform is, but I'll be honest with you rather than pretend I have more data than I do. I'd rather tell you straight up that this is still an evolving picture than manufacture a confident answer just to sound authoritative. Keep an eye on this space as more of these trucks rack up serious mileage over the next few years. Parts prices are reasonable for a Ford. The fifth 8, sensor and gasket level parts are priced normally. Nothing like the sticker shock you get shopping parts for some of the diesel options in this lineup. Repair difficulty is genuinely low on this engine too. Everything I worked on today was accessible without a fight. Plugs, thermostat, intake and rocker covers are all right there without having to dig through layers of plumbing to get to them. If you're shopping used, I'd lean toward trucks built in the more recent model years rather than the very first year this engine hit the market. Simply because early production runs on any new engine platform tend to have a few kinks that get sorted out as the manufacturer gathers real-world data and issues updates. Nothing dramatic showed up in my research specific to this engine, but that's just good practice buying any first or second model year of a brand new platform, and it costs you nothing to ask a seller directly which production run their truck falls into before you commit to anything. One customer, Real Miles, I had a customer bring in a Super Duty with this exact engine about a year ago because he was nervous after reading forum posts claiming these motors were fragile and prone to head gasket failure right out of the gate. I put up on a lift, checked everything over, and sent him on his way with nothing more than an oil change. He's since put another 30,000 miles on it towing a car hauler for his side business. No issues. That's anecdotal, but it lines up with everything I found tearing this one down piece by piece. A lot of what gets repeated online about brand new engine platforms comes from a handful of loud outlier cases rather than actual widespread patterns. 7.3 Godzilla versus the turbo half tons. It's worth talking about how this engine stacks up against the smaller turbocharged option if you're cross-shopping trucks. If most of your driving is empty and around town, the smaller turbocharged engine wins on fuel economy every time. But if you're regularly towing anything heavy, the story flips. This engine doesn't have to work nearly as hard to move that load, which means less heat, less stress, and fewer surprises down the road. There isn't a universally right answer. It comes down to being honest about how you actually use the truck versus how you imagine you'll use it. How it stacks up against other heavy-duty engines stack the 7.3 up against the diesel options in this lineup. The Power Stroke, the Duramax, the Cummins, and the picture gets more nuanced. Those diesels win on maximum towing capacity and fuel economy when you're genuinely working a truck at its limits. That's just physics. Diesel has more energy density and is built to grind out torque at low RPM for a living. Where the Godzilla wins background is everything around the engine. No DEF system to keep filled, no emission sensors that tend to be the most expensive things to diagnose on a modern diesel, no 5-figure repair bill waiting if a turbo or injector fails outside of warranty. Against the gas competition, GM's 6.6-liter V8 and Ram's 6.4 Hemi, the Godzilla generally holds its own or comes out ahead on torque and duty cycle capability, and parts access has been easier across the board. If your work demands maximum diesel towing numbers by the diesel, if you're towing 8 to 14,000 pounds regularly and want to skip diesel ownership costs, this is one of the strongest gas arguments in the segment right now. Which trucks and vans actually run this engine? This engine isn't limited to Super Duty pickups either, worth knowing if you're shopping the broader lineup. You'll find it across the F250, F350, and F450 Super Duty trucks, in chassis cab configurations that end up as flatbeds and commercial builds, and in Ford's E-Series van and cutaway platform, covering delivery vans through small box trucks and ambulance builds. It shows up again in Ford's medium-duty trucks, where that same low RPM, high-torque philosophy fits hauling heavier commercial loads at low speed. That spread across pickup, van, and medium-duty applications tells you Ford has real confidence in this platform. They're standardizing around it, not just using it in one truck and hoping for the best. What's next for the 7.3 Godzilla? As for where this engine goes from here, I don't see signs of a major redesign coming soon, and that's a good thing. Engines usually get overhauled when they're failing to meet emissions requirements or failing customers in the field, and right now this one is doing neither. What I do expect is the usual quiet evolution, small calibration updates, running changes to some of the softer parts one flag here, and continued aftermarket build-out as more of these engines rack up real-world miles. Ford's clearly committed to this platform across pickups, vans, and medium-duty trucks, so if you're buying one today, you're buying into a design that's going to be supported for a long time. What this means if you're buying used, one more thing worth mentioning, because it matters if you're buying used. Since this platform shares some proven design language with well-established engine families, that's already translating into a healthier aftermarket than you'd expect for a truck engine this new. Reputable valve-train component makers are already producing upgraded rocker systems and push rods for it, which tells me the broader repair and performance community sees enough potential here to invest real engineering time into it. That's a good sign for long-term part support, even if you never plan on modifying your truck, because a platform that attracts aftermarket attention early tends to stay well supported for a long time, and that benefits every owner, not just the guys chasing horsepower numbers. Final takeaway walking away from this teardown. Here's my honest, no-nonsense takeaway. This is a legitimately well-built, purpose-driven engine, engineered by people who understood what a truck needs to do, make strong low-end torque, handle sustained load without drama, and hold up over a long service life without requiring specialized knowledge to work on. It's not perfect, no engine is, but the compromises Ford made here are the right ones, prioritizing durability and serviceability over chasing a bigger number on a spec sheet. If this engine is on the table while you're cross-shopping trucks, based on what I found with my own hands today, you can check the box on reliability with real confidence. If you own one of these trucks, or you're thinking about buying one, drop your questions in the comments. I'll get to as many as I can. If you want more honest teardowns and straight talk from the shop instead of marketing fluff, go ahead and subscribe. We've got plenty more of these coming for the other engines in this lineup. I'll catch you in the next one.